Hello everyone, my name is Sabih Ahmed. I'm the Associate Director and Curator at the Ishara Art Foundation, and I'm going to be giving a virtual tour of Ishara's latest exhibition, Only Life, Myriad Places. Only Life, Myriad Places is Sudarshan's very first survey exhibition of his moving image works. Now, if any of you have followed Sudarshan's practice, you would know that he's primarily known as a sculptor. But some of you may not know that he was in fact trained as a painter in the Sir J.J. School of Arts in Bombay. Subsequently went on to making works across media in installations, sculptures, videos, films, sound pieces, and text. We decided to bring together his video works because he's carried forward a tradition of storytelling that has been very close to his thinking process. The exhibition inaugurated on the 25th of August, and it runs until the 9th of December. So if any of you happen to travel to Dubai, you must reach out to us so that we could give you a personal tour of the show and you can see the works in person. Now, what we tried to do in this exhibition curatorially was to design it in the way of presenting videos not in black box settings, but in fact as a labyrinth. Why the labyrinth? Because we wanted to present it as a labyrinth of the mind, where you can't tell the difference between what is fact, what is fiction, what is dream, what is reality. And that's the kind of space that Sudarshan wants to take you into when he's making a lot of these films. Another aspect that's very interesting about Sudarshan's films and videos is that whereas a lot of artists use their props and objects from films as residues in exhibitions, in Sudarshan's practice it turns out to be quite the other way around. So what you end up having is that the objects are not residues, but rather the starting points of his films. And that's what you will see when you go into this exhibition. Another curatorial decision that went into shaping this exhibition was to have a recurring motif, and that motif is that of a vessel or a pot. If any of you have ever read literatures or watched cinema or heard stories basically of migrations, of partition, of basically people moving, you realize that they carry their homes with them. And when they carry their homes with them, they carry them in various kinds of symbols or objects. So this exhibition tells the stories of a lot of lives, sometimes even medieval stories retold through objects. So it's actually one of the most dense exhibitions that Ishara has ever curated, presenting a whole mise-en-scène of objects, sounds, soundscapes, ambient kind of environments. And in this exhibition, we have this recurring motif of the pot, the vessel, that appears, that disappears, that breaks, that is refragmented together, and that's what we're going to see in this exhibition. Sudarshan's practice has come a long way in all of these years, so there's an awareness that a lot of people would know what his practice is all about and would find residues of those in his works. But we also know that presenting it here in the Gulf, a lot of people have no idea what his work is about. And so for them, this is an introduction into the mindscape of an artist, into the practice of an artist who is a master of both objects as well as images and symbols. We're going to go inside where you're going to get a glimpse of some of the works, and then we're going to continue the tour where I give you a voiceover kind of description. I'm not going to give you a voiceover when the video goes inside the video spaces, but when we go on the other side, I will continue this. So let's go and take a look at the works. In this untitled work that he's created in 2023, he's created a mirror image of two objects. One, what he describes as found or rescued objects of the brass pot. Some of these have been gathered from various places and sometimes shops in Bombay and various other destinations. And he's juxtaposed them with a mirror object carved out in wood. Now, as you know, wood does not dent, but he's created these dented wooden objects paired with the brass metallic found objects, and in a way telling a story of, again, people's lives that travel, that move cities, and while they travel, they also leave behind their memorials or monuments. This work becomes the starting point of the exhibition, where we start with his most recent work, a sculptural object series, that then goes into a video. So, the very first video that you saw after seeing the sculpture is a work titled Waiting for Others to Arrive. It's one of Sudarshan's earlier works, and it's a single channel video. It's shot in Bombay with the backdrop of a neoclassical building, or what might be described as an Indo-Saracenic building. And against this backdrop is a musician, a friend of Sudarshan's, who at some point lost her singing voice, and she took to the sarangi as a way to continue her singing. Along with her presence and the music of sarangi, there's the bustle of the streets. There's also a table that appears and disappears, and on that table is placed a saucer and a cup. This teacup and saucer, they're trembling throughout the time that the music is being played. One doesn't know whether they're trembling because of the vibrations of the music or the trembling of the earth. One waits in suspense as the saucer and the teacup move around on the surface of the table, almost dancing, until the teacup falls and breaks. It shatters, the whole scene disappears slowly, and then reappears in a different backdrop in the interior of another building, and the scene repeats itself. This waiting and anticipation of a vessel moving around, trembling, and then breaking somewhat riddles the entire exhibition. One waits in anticipation whether any of the pots that are being presented are going to remain intact or are they going to break. After that video work, we enter the premiere work of Sudarshan's, which is his latest film that was made in 2022. It's called One Life Many, Ek Jeevan Anek. And in this video, which was shot in Goa, during and after the pandemic, it captures a sense of waking out of a dream that was collectively had. Perhaps everyone had dreamed the same dream, or maybe it was a nightmare for some. And these are lines that are even in the video of Sudarshan's One Life Many. The video is practically 30 or 35 minutes long, and in it we follow a character walking in the empty streets, telling a story. As the character continues walking, the camera following him redirects to another person, then to another person, and then back to the first person, finally arriving at the sea and submerging himself, after which a woman appears in his place. The idea is that we're not one, we are many. We're all a multitude. And I think periods such as the pandemic, in which everyone woke out of this collective kind of dream or nightmare, one realizes the multiplicity of selves and multiplicity and interconnectedness of life. This seems to be a running theme in Sudarshan's practice as well. The marketplace is bustling with sounds. The previous work, Waiting for Others to Arrive, was bustling with sound. And the idea of the labyrinth of the mind through which one is navigating in this exhibition therefore captures the sense of overhearing one work and another. So there was a deliberate design and a risk, in fact, where we were wondering whether it'll work if we actually have sound spillages in the exhibition rather than insulated works. And at least based on what we're experiencing with lots of visitors who arrive, as well as Sudarshan's own experience of the show, it seems to be working quite interestingly, because there are lots of overlaps of voices, music, songs, stories, and bustle of the street. This is basically what the sensorium of the exhibition is constantly trying to achieve. As we come into this room, we're again surrounded by pots, we're surrounded by specters, we're surrounded by videos. We see one of his earliest videos made in 2012 called The Juggler. And in this video, we can point the camera to the juggler. We see a man juggling 3 pots. These pots resemble the funerary pots that are used in Hindu rites and rituals that are broken. As the man is juggling these pots, it's a layered video in slow motion. So at any given moment, you might know that there are 3 pots, but you might be seeing 5 or 6. You know that there are only 2 hands, but you see at least 4 or 6 again. And this multitudinous kind of anticipation of pots, objects, hands is again reflected in this work. What we are left to wonder and wait is whether any of these pots will break. But this brings us to the next work, an untitled work from 2015, where in fact we see a physical broken pot also casting a shadow beneath. The shadow was quite deliberately presented as an integral part of the work. This pot was assembled after it was broken as part of a performance that is captured in a photograph set against the Gateway of India in Bombay. And here a figure is seen standing with his back behind the viewer and facing the Gateway of India, performing what looks like those funerary rites, where the pot is dropped from the right shoulder behind him until it breaks. It is almost like a commentary on what happens with the colonial subject, what happens with a colonial symbol in front of which a funerary rite is being performed, and that too a colonial symbol which marked the onset of the British Empire as King George V entered Bombay. This is the pot that was reassembled in the vitrine. As we follow this pot, we then go to another story, this time a story that Sudarshan has written with no punctuation marks. Again, a recurring image of the pot, an earthen pot that is cracked, that broke over a gas flame, of a woman who seems to have a reincarnation, of a kitchen that is bustling with objects. A writer that visited one of our tours earlier had made a very interesting observation, saying that since there are no punctuation marks in the story, if anyone were to insert their own punctuation marks, that story would change each time. We felt that this is quite reflective of the entire exhibition. There are no punctuation marks. One voiceover carries into the next, one song carries over into the next, and it's depending on where you put the punctuation mark between the works that the contours of the show would be defined. The song that we're hearing is from another work by Sudarshan, a double-channel video work called A Song, A Story. This is a retelling of a medieval story that has traveled through many forms, in the form of stories, written stories, songs, and now into a video artwork by Sudarshan. In this work, we follow the story of a woman who had a story and a song inside of her. And while she was asleep, that story and song came out in the form of an umbrella and a pair of shoes of a man that parked themselves outside the house. The story follows her husband, who comes inside and realizes that someone was here, asks her whose shoes and umbrella are these, and the woman has no idea. This is the story that unfolds based on mistrust and then finally some kind of a closure. The pavilion and the architecture that you see in this work was in fact crafted by Sudarshan's studio, and these are the kind of sculptural installations that he makes that appear in his works, not, like I said, as residues later presented in shows, but in fact as point of departures that lead to such films getting made. This leads us to the final work in the exhibition, a work made in 2019 titled Age of Love. Age of Love has been borrowed from the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art in Delhi's collection and was conceived after Sudarshan was invited to make a work where on the subject of love, on a theme of love, and he brought together different intergenerational musicians, classical Hindustani singers, who are going to be singing a song in this circumambulating camera around a dining table and a chandelier. The figures appear and disappear. Their voices follow them, and then they disappear and appear with each singer. The interesting thing with this work is that despite all of the songs being about love, the word love is not mentioned even once. As you can see, the mise en scènes, objects, spaces, figures occupy a very important position in Sudarshan's work, and we felt that this work produces a quiet space of its own. Unlike many of the works that we presented downstairs, where we were deliberately doing spillovers of sound, of light, of some sensibilities and motifs, in this work we've kept a separate space secluded from the others, where you come in and you're present in the voice of others, in the songs of others. And we found that as we opened the exhibition, we've had a lot of people just coming and spending time here, some listening attentively, some just chatting with this playing in the backdrop. here in the Gulf presented this exhibition, we felt it was an interesting opportunity to show how it's not only people that travel, but also stories, but also songs, also literatures, also motifs, also objects. And in the exhibition at Ishara, we thought of all of these myriad places, myriad lives, and myriad things that populate lives among the presence of others. To conclude the tour, this exhibition was conceived really in conversation with Sudarshan, and we'll be doing a series of programs and talks which will be released online on the Ishara website so that you can follow it. Just to add a few details and shout-outs, this exhibition was designed by Himanshu Kadam. A lot of the outreach and communications is being led by my colleague Sabih Sehgal. A lot of the other exhibition production work and follow-ups of all kinds of other details that went into the making of the show has been led by Sudarshan Shetty and Santosh Kumar. The exhibition has been organized by Ishara Art Foundation, and it's been a privilege working with Sudarshan. So thank you for the tour, and we hope you'll follow us on our social media, on our website, and hope to see some of you in person soon. Thank you.